The first shot hits Earth. The sky above Los Angeles turned red as something massive broke through the clouds. It wasn't a storm or a plane or a satellite. It was something alive, something metal, something watching. The people below screamed and pointed, but it was already too late. A single beam of energy shot down from the alien vessel, cutting through buildings, roads, cars, and people. Without warning, without mercy, the ground shook as if the Earth itself had been punched in the chest inside. NORAD confusion turned to terror. The generals had never seen this kind of tech. No radar, no heat, no signal, only destruction. The president was rushed underground while the military scrambled jets and missiles, but nothing touched the alien ship. It hovered silently as if mocking the world beneath it. News spread like wildfire, even without power, even without networks. People saw the sky, people saw death, and they knew this was no human weapon. It was the first act of something worse than war. It was an invasion. The aliens had no name that humans could pronounce, but their empire spanned 10 star systems. They called Earth an uncharted primitive class C3 biosphere, which meant untamed and insignificant. They were at war with another empire. And Earth was simply in the way. They did not come to negotiate or ask permission. They came to test a weapon and burn a path. But something strange happened in minutes after the first strike as alien signals swept across Earth's atmosphere. They picked up strange patterns, not defense codes or military formations, but music beats, guitar strings, and screaming voices. Not of fear, but of rage, of defiance. They heard human languages speaking in chaos, but filled with emotion like fire burning inside the throat. The alien commander Zhirav turned to his officers and asked what species transmits anger in song, what species laughs during an extinction event. No one answered him, but the music kept playing even after towers fell and people died. A pirate radio station hidden in the mountains kept broadcasting a loop of war songs and messages calling people to fight back. Then the humans did something else, something the aliens didn't expect. They fought not with advanced lasers or energy shields, but with fire, with knives, with makeshift traps in forests and cities. They used their own ruins as camouflage. They hunted the hunters. And when they caught an alien scout, they didn't run or scream. They attacked, they tore through armor using sharpened metal and Molotovs and a kind of fury that machines could never copy. A squad of alien infantry landed near a quiet rural area thinking it was safe. Within minutes, the squad was ambushed by farmers and mechanics who used tractors as rams and old hunting rifles with deadly accuracy. The aliens were trained for battle on planetary fields, not inside burning barns or muddy fields. Covered in tripwires and glass shards, they started dying one by one. A young boy, barely 16, climbed onto the wreckage of a downed drone and began shouting into the still active camera, his face dirty, his eyes filled with tears and fire. He said, "You think we are animals, you think we are primitive, then come down here and bleed with us. We'll show you how savages fight." That footage spread through the alien fleet faster than commands. It reached their homeworld faster than the war orders had, and it made some of them pause, not out of fear, but out of something deeper: confusion, respect, disbelief that such a young creature would stand in front of death without blinking. Inside the human military bases, decisions were being made, codes were being cracked, stolen tech was being studied and reverse engineered faster than the aliens thought possible. The aliens expected Earth to fall in days, but in the first week, they had already lost 3 landing crafts and over 100 soldiers, mostly to what they described in reports as irrational human unpredictability. Commander Zhirav watched the growing reports with unease. He saw captured footage of humans carrying wounded friends on their backs, running through gunfire just to save one life. He saw mothers shielding children with their own bodies, and he saw something that no training had ever prepared him for. He saw a firefighter run into a collapsing building, not to save family, but a stranger, and that man never came out. These people were supposed to be primitive, supposed to be weak and undeveloped and fragile. But they were dying with pride, they were killing with passion, and they were surviving with a madness that could not be measured by logic or science. On the 7th day, a massive energy wave struck back from Earth, not from any official defense system, but from a hacked satellite converted into a weapon by a group of students and rogue engineers. The blast disabled one of the alien fleet's smaller ships and sent it crashing into the Pacific Ocean. Humans had just learned how to fight back using the enemy's own technology. Commander Zhurov finally stood silent at the edge of his command deck. His second-in-command asked if they should begin full planetary extermination, but Zhurov said, "No, not yet. I want to understand what we are facing first," because now he feared this wasn't a war, this was a mistake, and Earth wasn't primitive, it was just underestimated, and now they had woken something ancient, something terrifying, something human. Jungle fights back. The alien troops landed in the dense forests of what used to be called the Pacific Northwest, expecting an easy victory. They thought the humans would scatter and surrender like the weak creatures they imagined. But the moment their boots touched the soft, wet earth, the battle changed. The trees whispered secrets to the humans, and the humans listened. Their eyes burned with a strange light, one that made the aliens uneasy. The humans knew the land better than any map. They set traps hidden under leaves, in mud, and in plain sight. They used every tool they could find, from bows to homemade explosives that exploded with smoke and fire and shattered metal. The alien soldiers moved cautiously, but still they walked into the jungle that was alive with danger. A snap of a twig, a flash of movement, a sudden scream, all signals for the humans to strike. Captain Relek led the alien forces, but every day his men grew fewer and their nerves tighter. They faced not just enemies, but shadows, the unknown, the wildness of Earth itself seemed to fight alongside the humans. The jungle was a maze of life and death, and it gave no mercy to the invaders. The humans did not just fight with weapons. They fought with fury, with desperation, and with a will forged in pain and love. A human warrior named Jess had lost her brother in the first strike, but she did not break. Instead, she became the ghost of the forest. Moving silently with a knife and a sling, she struck where the aliens least expected. She whispered to the trees, as if they were old friends, and used the land as her shield. She was not alone. Others followed her lead, forming squads that disappeared before the aliens could react. The aliens began to realize this war was unlike any they fought before. Their scanners could not detect the humans hiding behind rocks or underwater or high in the trees. Jess and her fighters moved with a strange rhythm that confused the machines. They laughed and sang strange songs between attacks that sounded like madness, but it was something else. It was hope. The alien technology was advanced, but it was built for order and control, not for chaos and unpredictability. The humans broke all their rules. They fought dirty and refused to be predictable. The aliens called it madness, but for the humans it was survival. For every fallen soldier, there were 10 more ready to take their place and to fight with everything they had. Commander Zhurov received reports that some of his soldiers refused to advance. They said the humans were like demons, their rage unlike anything seen in the galaxy. They spoke of eyes that burned red in the dark and voices that called to them in their dreams. The war was becoming psychological as well as physical. Relek faced a decision to push forward and risk more soldiers, or to retreat and rethink strategy, but the alien high command demanded results. Earth was to be subdued or destroyed, and time was running out. The forests grew thicker, and the humans grew bolder. Relek wondered if they were fighting against a species, or against something deeper, a spirit of resistance that could not be killed. One night the aliens intercepted a strange transmission coming from a captured human village. It was not a plea for mercy, but a chant, a song of strength and anger. The words were harsh and full of pain, but they were also full of promise. The aliens could not understand the language, but they understood the meaning. There was no surrender here, only the promise of battle until the last breath. Inside the alien camp, tensions rose. Some soldiers wanted to retreat. Others wanted to call for reinforcements, but Zhurov held them back. He knew that underestimating humans was their greatest mistake. But he also felt something else, a strange respect for these creatures, who refused to die quietly. A captured alien scout described an encounter with a human named Marcus, who had been wounded but refused to stop fighting, he had lost a leg but still fought with a spear, throwing it with deadly precision. He told the scout that humans were born to fight, not because they liked war, but because they loved life. Too much to give it up easily. The forests echoed with the sounds of battle cries and the clash of steel and energy. The humans had become more than soldiers. They were a force of nature. Their rage and hope and pain became a shield no alien weapon could pierce. Relek saw his soldiers falter, and he knew the war would change forever. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the people rallied behind the fighters. They sent supplies, food, and medicine in secret networks. The families who lost sons and daughters refused to give up. They believed in the stories of victory, not because they were sure, but because hope was all they had. Zhurov called for a special meeting of his commanders. They needed a new plan, one that did not rely on brute force alone, one that understood the heart of Earth and its people. He ordered spies to learn more about human culture, to find weaknesses not in their weapons, but in their spirit. But even as they searched for answers, the humans prepared for the next strike. They sharpened their knives, built new traps, and gathered in the shadows, waiting for the moment to turn the tide. They were no longer the hunted, but the hunters. They were no longer primitive, but powerful and unstoppable. Jungle had become a battlefield not just of armies, but of wills and souls. The aliens came to conquer a primitive world, but found themselves lost in a war. They did not understand a war that would test everything they knew about power, fear, and survival. And in the midst of the trees, a single human voice rose higher than the rest. It was Jess calling her comrades to fight for Earth, fight for life, fight for the right to be free. The jungle fights back, and so do the humans, and the galaxy watches in silence, waiting to see who will survive this battle of worlds. The prisoners that didn't break, the alien warships captured a group of humans after a fierce battle in the city outskirts. The aliens believed these prisoners would be easy to break. They were used to quickly breaking spirits and forcing obedience. But these humans were different, even shackled and beaten. Their eyes burned with something fierce, something unyielding inside. The cold metal cells, the prisoners whispered stories, psalms, and memories. They shared tales of lost homes and hopes for the future. They sang in low voices songs of old Earth rhythms and rebel chants. The aliens did not understand these sounds, but they felt the power behind them. It was as if the prisoners drew strength from each other, like a fire that could not be extinguished. The lead interrogator, Vale, was frustrated. The usual techniques of fear and pain failed to make the humans bend. Their laughter echoed in the dark halls as they joked about their captors and the absurdity of their situation. Some whispered plans to escape, others simply held hands and waited patiently. One prisoner, a woman named Alina, became a symbol of defiance. She refused to answer questions or give names. She sang lullabies to the other prisoners and told stories of stars and distant lands. She had lost everything, but her spirit was unbroken. Her captors tried to break her will with long nights and harsh treatments, but she met every attempt with silence or a smile. An alien scientist named Terran was fascinated by these humans. He watched their behavior closely, recording every reaction and emotion. They never begged or cried in despair. Instead, they found humor even in suffering. They shared dreams and nightmares and supported each other like a family united in pain. Terrain sent his reports to the High Command, describing how the humans resisted not just with weapons, but with something deeper. Their minds and hearts were a battlefield no technology could conquer. The High Command was unsettled and confused. Their strategies based on domination and control were failing in ways they could not explain. Val ordered more aggressive interrogations, but the prisoners held firm. Some managed to smuggle small messages hidden in food scraps or whispered in guards' ears, telling others to keep hope alive. They passed secrets and warnings to prepare for rescue or rebellion. The aliens grew paranoid, afraid that these humans had some unseen power. One night, a prisoner recited a poem about fire and freedom. The words echoed through the halls, stirring something in the hearts of fellow prisoners and even some guards. Their cold faces softened briefly as the humans' courage challenged the very nature of captivity outside. The prison cells, a small group of human resistance fighters, planned a daring raid to rescue the captives. They knew the risks were high, but they could not abandon their comrades. The plan was simple but dangerous, using smoke bombs and silence to confuse the guards and break open the cells. Meanwhile, Terran began questioning his own beliefs about the war. He saw humanity not as a primitive species, but as a force of resilience and unpredictable strength. He wondered if the war was not about conquest but about survival of the spirit. The humans taught him that power was not only in weapons but in hope and unity. The rescue attempt came under the cover of night. The resistance fighters moved quickly and silently through the alien compound, disabling alarms and guards. They reached the cells where the prisoners waited with bated breath. Moment the doors opened, the prisoners sprang to action, not with fear but with fierce determination. They fought alongside their rescuers, using anything they could find: weapons, tools, and sheer will. Chaos that followed was brutal, but the humans pushed through. Their courage and refusal to give up caught the aliens off guard. Many prisoners escaped to join the larger fight, reclaiming their freedom with scars and stories to tell. The raid became a symbol of hope across Earth that even in captivity, the human spirit could not be chained. Narration watched from a distance, recording every moment. He made a decision to help the humans, secretly believing that their survival might change the course of the entire war. He began passing information to the resistance, risking everything for a cause he was just beginning to understand. Captured humans who did not escape continued their quiet rebellion inside the cells. Their laughter and songs carried through the metal halls, a reminder that they were still alive, still fighting, still human, and the aliens could not break them, no matter how hard they tried. Earth's no longer a planet of primitive creatures. It was a planet of warriors, poets, survivors, and fighters, a place where hope burned brighter than any weapon, and where the prisoners who did not break became legends. Whispered in the dark, the broadcast that changed everything. The galaxy had watched Earth with quiet curiosity until now, but the message that crackled through the stars changed everything. A rogue alien broadcast captured in secret and sent to every listening ship told a story unlike any before. It was not a tale of conquest or surrender, but of raw, unfiltered human resistance. The message showed humans fighting and bleeding and smiling, even in the darkest moments. It showed children hiding in rubble, singing songs of hope. It showed soldiers standing their ground with nothing but courage and broken weapons. The broadcast came from an anonymous alien voice, a voice filled with awe and fear as it narrated the battle scenes of Earth's warriors. Their eyes wild with rage, their hearts refusing to yield. Their screams were not cries of defeat but war cries calling for survival. The galaxy listened, and many who had never known Earth began to change how they saw this little blue planet. Across star system, species who once ignored Earth now whispered about the savage strength and the indomitable spirit of its people. Some planets began to send aid secretly, others opened their borders to refugees fleeing the war. They saw humans not as primitive but as symbols of rebellion and hope. The broadcast became a spark, lighting fires in hearts and minds across the galaxy. Among the alien high command, panic spread like wildfire. They had expected Earth to fall quickly to their superior technology, but now the humans were rising like a storm no one could stop. They were not just fighting for land, but for the very right to exist. They fought with fire knives, bare hands, and fierce love for a home that was their entire universe. Rogue broadcast included images of human warriors dancing through enemy fire, laughing despite wounds and fear. It showed mothers protecting strangers and children, defying death with fearless eyes. The message was a call to arms, a challenge to all who thought they understood power and weakness. The humans became a legend not just on Earth, but across the stars. Inspired by Earth, the star systems under oppression began to rise. Some species who had long suffered under tyrants found courage in human stories. They organized secret rebellions, sabotage, and strikes. The galaxy was waking from a long slumber, and Earth was at the center of this awakening. The war had become not just a battle for one planet, but a fight for freedom across the cosmos. Back on Earth, the broadcast fueled the fighters' spirits. They heard whispers of support from distant worlds, and it made their blood boil with pride. They trained harder, fought longer, and dreamed bigger. The humans became united not just by survival, but by a vision of a galaxy where they could be free and respected. The aliens responded by increasing their attacks, but it was too late. The myth of the humans had grown beyond Earth. They could no longer be contained or dismissed as primitive. Their rage and hope were a weapon more powerful than any technology. Their battle cries echoed in the hearts of those longing for freedom. Everywhere, Commander Zhirav watched the broadcast and felt a deep unease. The humans had awakened. Something ancient, a force that machines could not measure or control. He realized that the war had changed from a simple conquest to a test of spirit. And the galaxy would never see Earth the same way again. A secret meeting was called among the galactic leaders to discuss the implications of the broadcast. They debated how to deal with this new threat or ally, depending on perspective. Some wanted to crush Earth before it inspired more rebellion. Others saw a chance to learn from these fierce creatures and perhaps join forces. Broadcast continued to spread through underground channels and pirate networks, reaching even the farthest colonies. It became a symbol of resistance against oppression, a beacon for those who dreamed of freedom. The humans had become legends told in whispers and shouts in every star system. On Earth, the fighters prepared for what was to come. They knew the war was far from over, but they no longer felt alone. They fought not just for themselves, but for all who yearned to break their chains. Their battle had become a message to the galaxy that no species could be judged by appearances or weapons, but by the strength of their heart. The broadcast had changed the course of the war. It had turned a distant planet into a symbol of hope and defiance. It had shown the universe that humans were not primitive, but a force that could not be ignored. The galaxy was watching and waiting to see what Earth would do next, and Earth was ready to fight until the last breath to prove that in the heart of every savage was a warrior born to rise. Earth strikes the mothership. The alien command ship hung like a dark star over the shattered remains of the city. Its cold metal surface glinted in the pale sunlight. The humans watched from below, not with fear, but with burning resolve. They had gathered what they could: stolen alien technology, scavenged weapons, and forged them into tools of rebellion. A small team of fighters was chosen for a mission no one believed possible: destroy the mothership and cripple the alien fleet. Captain Jess led the ragtag squad. They were young and battle-worn, but fierce. Their faces were marked with soot scars and determination. They knew the odds were against them, but they carried the hopes of Earth on their shoulders. They trained in secret, studying the alien technology, decoding their defenses, and planning the impossible. The night before the attack, the team gathered beneath the ruins, sharing stories, laughter, and fears. They promised to return or die trying. They carried no illusions about the dangers ahead, but their spirits were unbreakable. They were not just soldiers, but the embodiment of humanity's fight to be seen, to be respected, to be free. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the squad launched. Their ships were old human crafts modified with alien parts, patched together with hope and desperation. They slipped through the enemy lines, avoiding patrols, using every trick learned from years of fighting. The mothership loomed closer, a fortress of death and power inside. The mothership, the alien commanders prepared for what they thought would be a final victory. Their confidence was shaken by Earth's resistance, but they still believed their technology unbeatable. The air was thick with tension as soldiers waited for orders, some eager, others fearful. Jess and her team breached the outer defenses, slipping through corridors filled with strange lights and humming machines. They moved quickly, avoiding detection, disabling security systems, and planting explosives. Their hearts pounded not from fear, but from the weight of what they carried in the command center. Jess faced Commander Zhirav once again, but this time it was different. Their eyes met not as enemies, But as beings forced to understand each other in war, Zhurav saw the same fire in Jess's eyes, the same fierce love for a home and a future. He hesitated for a moment, the weight of centuries of war pressing down on him. Jess spoke with no fear, her voice steady as she told Zhurav that Earth would not be broken or controlled. They fought not because they wanted war, but because they wanted life. She told him that in their fight was the truth of what it meant to be alive, to suffer, to love, and to resist. But there was no time for peace. The explosives detonated, ripping through the mothership's core. The blast shook the vessel, sending shockwaves through space. The team barely escaped the collapsing ship as it exploded in a fiery storm of metal and energy. The destruction of the mothership sent a ripple through the alien fleet. Chaos erupted as ships scrambled to regroup. The humans on Earth cheered their victory, but knew the war was far from over. They had struck a powerful blow, but survival meant continuing the fight with every ounce of strength. Back on Earth, Jess looked at the stars with tears in her eyes. She thought of the friends lost, the battles won, and the future they fought. For the alien commander Zhurav recorded a message in his final log, saying that humanity was no longer primitive, but a species of terrifying strength and heart. The war had changed him forever. The mothership's fall marked a turning point, not just in the war, but in the galaxy's view of Earth. The humans had shown that courage and willpower could overcome technology and fear. They were no longer seen as prey, but as equals, as warriors, as beings to be reckoned with. And as the fires of battle burned the night sky, the story of Earth's fighters echoed across the stars, inspiring those who dreamed of freedom and change. The war was still raging, but the galaxy had learned one undeniable truth: the humans were not primitive, they were unstoppable. Aftermath and awakening, the warships retreated, leaving behind a trail of destruction and silence. The cities lay in ruins, and the forests bore scars of fire and battle. But from the ashes the survivors emerged, tired, battered, but united. The people of Earth had fought not just against an alien force, but against the fear that they were weak. They had proved to themselves and the galaxy that strength was born from the heart and spirit, not from technology alone. The alien fleet left behind wounded soldiers and civilians confused by the resistance they encountered. Some aliens stayed behind, hiding among the ruins, seeking refuge from the endless war. The humans faced a choice: to turn them away or to show mercy. A new chapter began where enemies became uncertain allies and old hatred was tested against new hope in the ruined cities. Human medics worked alongside alien doctors, sharing knowledge and healing wounds. Both sides learned that survival depended not on hatred, but on understanding and cooperation. The alien medic Terran, who once studied humans from afar, now walked among them, helping save lives. His log spoke of a species that was terrifying not because of power, but because of their unbreakable will. Communities rebuilt slowly, sharing stories of loss and courage. Children played amidst the rubble, their laughter a reminder that life continued despite darkness. The survivors carried scars visible and hidden, but their eyes shone with determination to protect their world and their future. The galaxy watched as Earth transformed from a battleground to a symbol of resilience. The news spread of how humans helped alien civilians and how once divided enemies now shared food, shelter, and hope. It was a fragile peace, but it was peace nonetheless. A peace forged in the fires of war and in the hearts of those who refused to give up. Leaders from Earth and the alien factions began secret talks to end the conflict. They met not as conquerors, but as equals seeking a way forward. The war had taught them that victory was not about destruction, but about respect and coexistence. The negotiations were difficult, filled with distrust and old wounds, but there was a growing desire to heal. The humans who had fought on the front lines returned home as heroes. Their stories were told and retold, inspiring new generations to stand tall and never underestimate their worth. The warriors who once fought for survival now fought for rebuilding and peace. Their hands that held weapons now held tools and seeds. Meanwhile, Turin's logs became a testament to the transformation he witnessed. He wrote that humanity was not primitive or weak, but a species of terrifying complexity, capable of both destruction and profound compassion. He believed that the true power of humans lay in their hearts, their ability to rise from despair, and to embrace hope, even when all seemed lost on Earth. The skies slowly cleared, and the stars shone brighter, reminding everyone that they were part of a vast universe. One child looked up at the stars, dreaming of a future where humans walked among the stars not as conquerors but as friends. The scars of war remained, but so did the lessons learned. The alien commanders who survived the war returned to their homeworlds, changed forever. Some became advocates for peace, others questioned the cost of their empire. The galaxy was shifting, moving toward a future where old prejudices could no longer hold sway. The humans had ignited a spark that would burn through the darkness for generations to come. As the planets healed and the wounds closed, Earth prepared for a new role in the galactic community, no longer a primitive backwater, but a beacon of strength, resilience, and hope. The story of the war became a legend told not as a tale of defeat, but as a story of awakening, a story of how a species once underestimated rose to claim their place among the stars. The survivors gathered in a circle, sharing memories and hopes. Their voices joined in a song that echoed through the valleys and mountains, a song of life, of struggle, and of unyielding spirit. They knew the path ahead was long, but they also knew they would walk it together, stronger and wiser in the quiet. Moments after the storm, the galaxy breathed a little easier, knowing that Earth was not just a planet, but a promise, a reminder that even in the darkest times hope could shine bright. The treaty signed in blood, the Galactic Council arrived on Earth in ships that gleamed like stars, reflecting centuries of power and politics. The leaders expected a defeated species, a people broken and begging for mercy, but what they found was something else. Entire cities had been rebuilt with hope and determination. Humans walked with heads held high and eyes blazing with pride. They were not the weak they had imagined, but warriors and survivors who had earned their place in the stars. Council chamber was vast, cold, and filled with representatives from dozens of worlds. All eyes watched as a young human girl stepped forward. She was barely 12, her face smudged with dirt, and her hands scarred from battle. But her posture was steady and fearless. The room fell silent as she wore the medals earned by heroes older than her, but now gone. She spoke without fear, without hesitation. Her voice carried the weight of history and the fire of a people who refused to be forgotten. She told the council that Earth did not come asking for protection or pity, but for respect, that humans were not primitive creatures, but a force born from struggle and love, that their fight had been for survival and dignity, not just on Earth, but across the galaxy. The council members exchanged surprised glances. Some whispered that this child spoke with the wisdom of ages. Others saw the strength of a new generation that would shape the future. The girl's words echoed in the chamber and beyond. They reminded the galaxy that power was not measured by weapons alone, but by courage and heart. After hours of debate, the council signed the treaty, admitting Earth into the Galactic Alliance, not as a vassal, but as an equal partner. A new chapter began where humans would walk alongside other species, sharing knowledge, culture, and dreams. The galaxy would never again call Earth primitive nor underestimate the fierce spirit that had changed everything. The celebrations on Earth were quiet and profound. The survivors and their descendants gathered to honor those lost and to welcome the future. The child who had spoken was hailed as a symbol of hope, a living testament to what it meant to fight for one's place in the universe. She looked up at the stars with a smile, knowing that Earth's story was just beginning. The alien commanders who once sought to conquer now worked with humans, forging bonds born from conflict and respect. Old enemies became allies, and the scars of war became lessons passed down through generations. The galaxy watched as a new era unfolded, one where diversity was strength and understanding was power. Across the stars, messages of peace and cooperation spread, inspired by Earth's journey. The tale of a planet once called primitive that rose from ashes to stand tall became a legend. Told in countless languages and voices, it was a reminder that no species should be judged by their beginnings, but by their will to rise and transform. The humans who had fought and survived knew the cost of their victory. It was written in the lines on their faces, the memories in their hearts, and the stories told around fires late into the night. They carried the legacy of struggle and hope, knowing that the future depended on their courage and unity, and so Earth stood proud, a beacon shining in the vastness of space, a symbol that even the smallest voice can roar louder than the mightiest weapon, a promise that no force can extinguish the flame of life, and that true power lies in the strength of the spirit. The treaty was signed in blood, sweat, and tears, but it was also signed in hope and determination. It marked the end of one war and the beginning of endless possibilities, a future where humans and aliens alike could dream together, build together, and explore the stars as equals. And the galaxy knew from that day forward that Earth was no longer a forgotten world, but a home to warriors, poets, survivors, and dreamers. The humans had rewritten their destiny, and the universe would never be the same again. The story of Earth was complete. But the story of humanity was just beginning. The treaty signed in blood. The Galactic Council arrived on Earth in ships that gleamed like stars, reflecting centuries of power and politics. The leaders expected to meet a broken people defeated and begging for mercy, but instead they found a planet alive with pride and strength. Cities rebuilt with hands that refused to give up and eyes shining with the fire of warriors. The humans walked tall and spoke with voices that carried the weight of survival and hope. The council chamber was vast and cold, filled with representatives from countless worlds. All watched as a young girl stepped forward, her face marked by dirt and battle scars, but her spirit unshaken. She wore medals earned by heroes who gave everything so she could stand there fearless and proud. The room fell silent as she spoke without fear or hesitation. She told the council that Earth did not ask for pity or protection, but respect, that humans were not primitive, but fighters born from struggle and love, that their battle was not just for survival on Earth but for dignity across the stars. Her words echoed through the chamber and beyond, stirring whispers and awe among the gathered leaders. Some saw in her the wisdom of ages, others the promise of a new era where courage ruled. Hours passed as the council debated, and then they signed the treaty, welcoming Earth into the Galactic Alliance not as a vassal, but as an equal partner. A new chapter began where humans would stand side by side with other species, sharing dreams, knowledge, and hope. The galaxy would never again call Earth primitive or underestimate the fierce spirit that changed everything. Celebrations across Earth were quiet but profound. Survivors and their children gathered, honoring the past and embracing the future. The girl who spoke became a symbol of hope, a living promise that even the smallest voice can roar louder than any weapon. She looked to the stars and smiled, knowing Earth's story had only just begun. The alien commanders who once sought conquest now worked alongside humans, forging bonds born of conflict and respect. Old enemies became allies, and the scars of war turned into lessons passed down through time. The galaxy watched as a new era unfolded, one where diversity was strength and understanding was power. Across the stars, messages of peace and unity spread, inspired by Earth's journey. The tale of a world once called primitive, rising from ashes to stand proud, became legend told in many tongues. It reminded all that no species should be judged by their origins, but by their will to rise and transform. The humans who fought and survived carried the cost written in their faces, memories and stories told around fires late into the night. They bore the legacy of struggle and hope, knowing the future depended on their courage and unity. Earth stood proud, a beacon shining in the vastness of space, a symbol that no force can extinguish the flame of life, that true power lies in the strength of the spirit. Treaty was signed with blood, sweat, and tears, but also with hope and determination. It marked the end of one war and the dawn of endless possibilities, a future where humans and aliens could dream, build, and explore the stars together as equals. Galaxy knew from that day on Earth was no longer forgotten, but home to warriors, poets, survivors, and dreamers. Humanity rewrote their destiny, and the universe would never be the same again. The story of Earth was complete, but the story of humanity was just beginning. The end.